Hi, spooky people. Welcome to the Spooky and Weird with Sue St. Blaine. This is Jasper. Are you one of those people, like me, who laughs hysterically when nobody else does? When something happens that other people might consider not the time to laugh, but you just laugh because, well, it's funny. Well, I'm one of those people, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. It's called gallows humor, dark humor. What it is in a nutshell is laughing at absurdity in places that are otherwise not funny. That's a really tortured definition, but that's basically what we're doing when we do that. It's a survival technique for a lot of us. It's a way we've built armor around ourselves to be able to find those things, to be able to find the things that are ridiculous. But it doesn't always land with everybody. So I'm going to try and explain it a little bit, and I'm going to tell a few stories from my life that I think represent this pretty well, and I'm very, very much encouraging you to stay with it to the end and not leave when I say this first sentence. So it was the morning of 9/11. Stay with me. I know that there's nothing funny about 9/11, and I'm going to do my best to explain to you what's happening here. It was indeed the morning of 9/11. I woke up like everybody else on the West Coast. I woke up, the news was in full swing. Everything was already happening and had happened. So I woke up, I turned on the news, and like all of us, why? What happened? What's going on? My husband, now husband, and I, we weren't living together yet. So he called me. And we were watching the same channel together. We were watching the news. We were on the phone just crying and trying to find a way to process what we were seeing. Luckily, we were watching the same channel because, you know, the crawl at the bottom of all news stories, basically, somebody's typing very quickly updates and what's going on and, you know, things like that. And so obviously on 9/11, the person typing was frantic, also dealing with this horror and this grief. And so it's perfectly understandable that there would be typos. One of the typos, Chris and I were in San Francisco. We lived in San Francisco. And one of the typos was, and this is verbatim, San Francisco police say they are art. Chris and I both got quiet for a minute, and then we just busted out laughing. We started to riff on it. And I'm smiling because it's funny. We started to riff on this. We started, you know, you imagine somebody's out by the police federal building or something, and it's okay. We're a kinetic piece. We're all right. Well, you know, and somebody's down, I don't know, Justin Herman Plaza. It's okay. No, we've got an installation going on here. It's very good. It's not at all didactic. We're good. We're art. And that took a few minutes away from the nightmare. And, you know, we were not laughing at 9/11. Of course, we were laughing at this absurd typo. And I gotta say, the fact that it was my city made it sublime. If it had been Fresno police say they are art, or Bakersfield police say they are art, no offense, Fresno and Bakersfield, but it had to be San Francisco. It had to. There's no place else in California that it would have been that hilarious. So that's what I'm talking about. That's gallows humor. That's in the face of something unimaginable horror. Just truly unimaginable horror. That came across our vision and it was simply funny. Now, not everybody's going to understand that, and I understand. I really hope you're still watching. So I'm hoping that I can explain that. I hope that story helps a bit. Um, for those of us that do survive this way, there's it's one of the greatest coping mechanisms that we have. So when somebody doesn't understand it, I'm hoping that there can be a little understanding both ways. That we are not, well, I can't speak for everybody. Some people are jerks, but we are not laughing at the horror. We're finding a way to deal with the horror. So I'm going to tell you another story in my life. I'm going to go kind of very personal with you right now. But I have absolutely no secrets. So when I was in my late 20s, I got sober. And the problem is I didn't deal with the things that made me drink in the first place. So, like a lot of people, I turned to something else self-destructive. And I turned to anorexia. And I got very, very thin. At one point, so despondent and so defeated that I just said, fuck it, I'm going to drink again. This is ridiculous. So I got my little 6-pack, brought it home. Okay, this is funny, and I have to preface it. This is funny. I took out one of the beers, and I looked at it, and I'm thinking to myself, I want to drink this so badly. But do you know how many calories are in this? It's funny. And I knew at the time that was funny. And my recovery started shortly after that because I found something funny. So that's what it is. That's what it is for a lot of us. It's sort of whistling in the graveyard. It doesn't necessarily even mean the person is spooky. Lots of people developed this defense mechanism. It's well, I don't know that it's common. I've never done a survey. But it's not uncommon. And when you find a tribe, a group of friends that understand you, that's a beautiful thing. That's just a beautiful thing. And I have such a tribe. We've been friends for ages. We love each other very much. And we all pretty much I think pretty much all of us, but get and use this technique. And for example, again, it's not going to start out funny at all, but we were at the memorial for a dear friend most of us have known for a very long time. And as we filed out from the memorial service, we stood in a little circled the wagons, I guess, and everybody was there and present for everybody else. If somebody needed to walk away and cry, then they walked away and they cried and they came back and they wanted a hug, they got a hug. If they, wanted to tell stories, we told stories, and that happened a lot because he was awesome. One thing that did come up a lot was really, really dark humor, and somebody were walking by and heard us, they might think, but that's just how we all cope. And I'm not going to repeat any of the jokes because they're personal, quite frankly. But that's what we do. And that's a beautiful thing when you have that community of people. When you're in a situation where you do not have that community of people, or it's not the appropriate time, that can be very difficult for people like me. For example, and again, not super funny way to start this, when we went to pick up my dad's ashes, my sister, my brother, a few other folks, we went to the mortuary. And I'm going to stop real quick and I'm going to tell you kind of where my mindset was. I won't go into great detail because I have really strong opinions about this, but I am not a fan of the funeral industry. Really not a fan. Let's just put it that way. I don't like manipulating people in their weakest moments. I don't mean weak. Well, you know what I mean. Most vulnerable moments. I don't like trying to upsell a fucking coffin. I'm not a fan. Anywho, we got to the mortuary, walked through the hideous lobby that looked like Barbara Cartland threw up on Laura Ashley, poofy flowers everywhere, and just... Anyway, the mortuary fellow came out. Mortician? I actually should know that. That's something that I should know. Anyway, he came out and he was speaking to us in that voice that they use. And not a fan. Anyway, so we went into his office, the big group of us, and my sister and I took the seats at the desk. Chris was behind me. And I had never in my life heard the word cremains. Never heard that word in my life. And that guy said the word in that little mortician whisper about 4 times in one sentence. And it just got funnier and funnier. And I thought that I was going to explode. And nobody else in this room really does gallows humor. And it was absolutely not the right time to do that. So I had to grab many, many tissues from his little box there, cover my face, and just weep laugh. I mean, I laughed so hard quietly. Everybody thought I was sobbing except for Chris. He knew what was going on. That just struck me so funny. Such a ridiculous word. Such a ridiculous time. Well, I mean, I guess that was the time to use it now that I think about it, but it just was ludicrous, and it just made me laugh. So that is a time when you really have to keep it on a leash. As hard as that might be, and it's not always really super possible. I mean, I actually don't have a story for that, now that I think about it. I actually do have a story for that, but it's not, even for me, I don't think I'm going to tell that story. No. So, I mentioned before that not everybody that it likes gallows humor or understands it or uses it is spooky, but a lot of us are. And I think that's why you'll find a lot of people laughing hysterically at horror movies that maybe other people just kind of don't. Mentioned in a previous video, the one where I talked about the satanic panic, that horror is something people sometimes work things through horror, through facing death, through whatever it is that they're getting from it. Not always. I mean, sometimes a slasher is just a slasher and they're fun. But sometimes you do. Sometimes you'll find something that resonates with it. Well, you don't even really kind of know that. It's kind of a laugh in the face of demons. It's kind of a it's gallows humor is what it is. You're laughing through your own personal demon, not necessarily Pazuzu, but Pazuzu is the monster from The Exorcist. But I digress. I told you you'd get used to that. My first video, I told you you'd get used to that. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. But I just kind of wanted to talk about that because it comes up frequently when one is dark, when one appreciates the spooky and weird. Basically, it can be very funny I used my stories. So if you have any strong feelings about this, you can point them at me. Um, and I will ignore them because honestly, this is how I am and this is how a lot of people are. And if you don't get it, that's cool. That's super cool. Not everybody does. Um, but for us, that's kind of how it goes. Um, I mean no offense, but offense will happen. There are no trigger warnings in life.